Hello, everyone. In this video, let's talk about such a topic. Why is argument unnecessary? And why are we easily trapped in arguments? We argue a lot. The society is based on argument. The politics, the debate. It seems that that's the only way to conclude, to find the conclusion. But is that really so? If you experience argument, you know that feeling, right? When we are in an argument, we can be very emotional. And we want to win over others. And when we are lucky to win, we get pleasure from it. But when we don't, we feel ashamed. And even we ruminate for a few days for the loss of the argument. All kinds of negative emotions can be triggered. Jealousy, aversion, hatred, etc. But is argument really necessary? And does argument achieve our purpose? The purpose to conclude something. You see, the argument generates a lot of negativities, and we are so easily attracted to the negativities, which is part of our nature, the nature of a human mind. So when an argument arises, it's no wonder that we can get trapped in it, right? So here, today, in this video, let's look at the essence of argument. So when we are arguing from the beginning until the very end, we'll find that the argument always falls back on different judgments. You have your judgment, and I have mine. I judge it in this way, and you judge that in that way. It's just naturally incompatible. If so, what's the point to persuade the other to have the same judgment as you have? Think about these judgments and ideas and opinions. Are they really yours, or are they second-hand? Do you really reach that without any assumptions, any other ideas, or hypotheses? Or you just borrow it from the text, from the books, texts, lectures, or any kind of authorities? We are always looking outward to seek authority, to tell us who we are. And everyone is doing that. So we use these borrowed arguments to fight against each other. What's the point of doing that? You believe yours is true, and I believe mine is true. And I assume that you should be the same with me. And you also have the same assumption. So we just keep arguing without realizing that we are all brainwashed. We are brainwashed by the things we are taught in the past. We are brainwashed by our experience in the past and the knowledge in the past. And we try to use the things that we have known to interpret the things we don't know. That's why we generate a lot of assumptions, a lot of hypotheses. Without realizing they are fake, they are ungrounded, we take them for granted and use it in our argument, believing that it's true. Isn't it ridiculous? So when we hear something different from what we believe in, we began to draw into a defensive mood. We want to defend it, defend what we believe in, and then we are in argument. Then let's have a look how we triggered argument. Because we borrowed things from the books, from other ideas, we usually dump the conclusion directly. When the other hear our conclusions, it can be very different from their conclusions. So this contrast means conflicts, shocks, and that will lead to the argument because it's easy to trigger people's defensive mood or the ego, the self, whatever. Another trigger is language. We believe that language can represent what we think. But actually, it's not. For the same sentence, people understand it differently, and the misunderstanding just appears. You understand in that way, and I understand in this way. Neither of us realize it, and we just keep arguing. And then we find that, we just misunderstand the sentence, the verse. In general, the verbal communication is always miscommunication. And the miscommunication often leads to arguments. Up to now, you say, the argument is just a game. It's a mental game. Because we always look outward to understand ourselves. We borrow ideas, the models, the ideologies from the books, from the authority. But we never look within to understand ourselves, which is actually the only way to understand. So in that sense, we are all second-hand souls. And the argument has become a game of second-hand souls. Everyone is caught up in this superficial game. Why is superficial? Because we only play the game of the verse without truly understanding our soul. To understand ourselves, we have to look within with an empty mind, which is free from the past experience and knowledge. With this freshness, we can observe our mind, ourselves, to understand who we really are. We don't need to argue with other people to get a conclusion. We just observe the mind to get the conclusion. So let's stop arguing. Let's look within together to explore our inner world. It's a lonely game, but to understand the truth, we have to do it in solitude.